Okay, so a lot happened last week in the markets. I'm gonna take a look at the pairs from last week that I reviewed, and I'm gonna go through and see what happened. Then I'm going to analyze all of the other pairs on my list, all of these pairs right here. And I'm gonna select what I think is going to be ready for this week to trade. And I'm gonna explain what I'm waiting for to take the trade. So these are the pairs from last week. So I'm going to start with Euro USD and just see what happened. So for this one, like I explained in my previous video, I was waiting for a 1 hour retest of this area right here, just how it happened exactly how I expected it to happen. And once it made it to this area, I was waiting for my entry signal to enter the trade. And I got that about 1 a.m. around that time. And that's when I took the trade and it went to a 1 to 4. So I ended up holding up to a 1 to 4. I was only really expecting a 1 to 2. That's my minimum. But I decided to just continue holding it just because I saw that it was having a good momentum push to the downside. So I continued to hold until a 1 to 4. And then I got out just in time before it wanted to retest the area again, and it ended up breaking that area and going bullish. So this was a good timing to exit that trade. I was looking to see if I could re-enter it again for more sells, but it never happened. It just stayed above this area. And just like how I explained before, as we're below the area, we tend to stay under. But once we break above, we tend to stay above this area. The next pair is AUD CAD. So for this one, I was looking for sells, and I was waiting for a 4 hour retest. The 4 hour retest did happen, but it happened too high, so it went above the area. So I was waiting for this to come back into the area and retest, but it never really slowed down. It just continued and broke above the area, which then I wasn't really interested in this trade anymore. So I never entered the trade, and I just let it go, even though it did retest the area here. And then the next trade was AUD CHF. So this one I was waiting for a daily retest, which I did get the daily retest right here, but I didn't like how the 4 hours shifted due to that daily retest. So we're still bearish on the day, but when we had the retest here on Tuesday, that 4 hour ended up going bullish, and I wasn't interested in the trade anymore because I tend to like having my trend, so the weekday 4 hour, in sync. So I had them all in sync in the beginning, but then once that 4 hours shifted, went bullish, I just wasn't interested in that trade anymore. So I never took that trade. And then the next pair was GBP CAD. GBP CAD did have that 4 hour shift that I was anticipating. So we did shift under, had a 4 hour shift, but we didn't get the entry signal to sell. So we did have a retest of this area. It wasn't the best retest. I would rather have it close a bit more in the area, but we never got the entry signal to sell anyway, so I never entered that trade. But this could be something for this week. And then the next one was GBP USD. So this one was a sell also, which I was waiting for that 4 hour retest. So that 4 hour retest did happen, as we could see here, but I never entered the trade because I never got my entry signal. And sometimes if I don't get an entry signal, I don't enter the trade, and it could end up having the move that I anticipated, which it did. So it did hit a 1 to 3, but I never entered the trade because I never got the entry signal. Just because it's moving down and having a strong push down doesn't mean that I have to enter the trade. If there's no entry signal, then there's no trade. So this was a good 1 to 3. That's a good risk to reward, but I couldn't have done anything to enter that trade. If I would have entered it, it would have just been a guess that it would have made to my take profit. The next pair was GBP JPY. So for this one, I was waiting for a daily retest to buy. And let's see, I did get that retest, but then it ended up breaking under the area, and then I was no longer interested in buys anymore. So I just ignored this pair for the rest of the week. So So the only really good trade I had was Euro USD, and that's pretty much all you need. You just need 1 or 2 trades for the week. I wasn't planning on taking every single one of these pairs. I was just looking to see if one of them were to have that setup that I was looking for, and Euro USD was it. So now I'm going to review the rest of these pairs. I'm going to analyze them, and then I'll come back with my list of what I'm expecting to see so I can enter the trade or not. Okay, so after analyzing all of the pairs on my list, these are the 3 that I think are ready for this week. I'm gonna go through and explain what I'm waiting for to enter the trade. I usually do put them in order of how soon I think they're gonna happen, but all these 3 are pretty much around the same timing, and I can't really enter all 3. So I'm just gonna leave them like this in this order, and then just watch them, and as the one that gives me the entry signal first, that's the one I'm gonna enter. So to go through, the first one is GBP CAD, and for this one I am looking for sells. So if we look through the top down analysis and we look through the weekly, so weekly we are bearish. So we have the lower low here, lower high there, and then if we look at the day, on the day we are also still bearish. Got the lower low there, lower high there, and then if we look at the 4 hour, the 4 hour we are also bearish on the 4 hour. So 4 hour, we got the lower low there, the lower high there. So we are bearish. So what I am waiting for to sell is a 2 hour or 1 hour retest. So on the 2 hour, I'm waiting for the 2 hour to come into this area and close in there. And then once it does, then I'm looking for my entry signal to sell. It could either be the 2 hour or the 1 hour. They both look similar. I would rather wait for a higher time frame to retest than a lower time frame like the 1 hour. But just depending on how the volume is, I might use the 1 hour, but we'll just have to see what happens. And when I think this will happen, I think this is going to happen again this London session. And if I don't see anything this London session, then I might have to wait till New York and see if I can see an entry signal then. But I'm pretty sure this is going to happen during the London session. And then where am I expecting to take profit? So the trade I think is going to happen somewhere here. Again, my stop loss is going to be somewhere above the area. Let's just call it there at 21.7 pips. And then my take profit is usually a 1 to 2. But I believe it might make it all the way down here to this area for the take profit, but I'm expecting only to get a 1 to 2, so possibly right here. That seems like a good area as well. But again, we'll just have to see what happens if I even enter GBP CAD. So that's that one. The next one is Euro USD. So I'm trying to see if I can continue the sells on Euro USD since we are still bearish. So if we look at top down analysis, we have our weekly as bearish still. Weekly bearish, and our daily is also still bearish. And if we look at 4 hour, our 4 hour is still bearish all the way back here. Still bearish. So what I'm waiting for to enter this trade would be another 2 or 1 hour retest. So if we look at 2 hour here, So the 2 hour did go bullish, and then it shifted back down to bearish. And then now we're at this area where we bid before and it sold from. It's been here before and it sold from there. So now I'm just anticipating for this to come back to this area, retest once I'm there, then we'll see if I see an entry signal and enter this trade. Again, I don't know if I'm going to enter Euro USD or GBP CAD first. It just depends on what happens during those sessions. Will I enter both of them? I can, but then now you're managing 2 trades and you have more risk out there. So if I want to enter both of them, I'd rather just pick one and double my risk. So that's pretty much it, is waiting for it to get to this area. And then again, if I put my risk to reward tool here, my stop loss will be somewhere above this area, probably around here. And then take profit again as like a 1 to 2, like under this here. But potentially it could go to another 1 to 4, somewhere down here under this wick here. But I'm realistically just holding to 1 to 2, somewhere around there. And that's Euro USD. And then the last pair I saw in here was Euro JPY. So this one is also a sell. And then if we do our top-down analysis, we can see that the week is still bearish. Our day is also bearish. And our 4 hour is also bearish, which is why I'm looking for sells. So what I'm waiting for this one is a 2 hour, 1 hour rejection. So not a retest, but a rejection. Since we are kind of in this area, but I want to see it reject again. Since the 2 hour is bearish here, over low, lower high, I'm looking for a rejection on this area here, either a 2 hour or a 1 hour rejection. So what could happen is that this 1 hour can continue pushing in a bit, trying to fill in that wick, which it might just go up, or it could stop somewhere in this area and then give me a rejection, which then will indicate that we are rejecting this area again, and then I'll go down and look for an entry signal. And then if that happens, then my risk to reward will be something like this, probably above that wick, and then a 1 to 2 right there. And then that's Euro JPY. So this one, I don't know if that's gonna happen during London session. If it doesn't, then I'll wait for New York, but I might be in one of these 2 trades, so then I probably won't even take this one. So these are the pairs that I'm interested in for this week. And if you haven't followed me already on Instagram, go ahead and follow me on Mojica Markets, where I post if I've entered these trades or not. And if you have any questions, you can go ahead and DM me there or leave a comment down below in this video, and I'll answer your questions about anything you have. All right, I'll see you in the next one.